The small city of Salisbury, Maryland, is known for its tight-knit community, where everyone knows everyone and crime is a rare occurrence. But one chilling case from nearly 2 decades ago has haunted its residents and law enforcement officers alike: the brutal stabbing death of 40-year-old Denise Horsey. It was a spring evening on April 8, 2006, when tragedy struck in the form of a violent assault. Denise's body was found in a local alley, her life taken far too soon. The authorities responded quickly, but despite their best efforts, the case went cold. No suspects, no answers, just questions that lingered for years. As the years passed, the memory of Denise's death remained fresh in the minds of those who loved her. But for those working on the case, the pain of an unsolved murder was a heavy burden to bear. This all changed on September 22, 2025, when a breakthrough occurred, and a man named Tyrone Leroy Hughey was arrested in connection with Denise's murder. For her family, the news was bittersweet, relief mixed with years of grief. For the community, the arrest provided a sense of closure, as they had never truly forgotten the crime that had rocked their town. In this special report, we dive into the details of this significant case, its investigation, and the emotional journey of the family as they finally got the answers they had been searching for all these years. Interview with police spokesperson. Anchor. Good evening. It's been almost 2 decades since the tragic death of Denise Horsey, and we're here tonight to discuss the shocking arrest of Tyrone Leroy Hughey. Joining us is a representative from the Salisbury Police Department, who can shed light on this remarkable breakthrough. Thank you for joining us. Police spokesperson, thank you for having me. It's a difficult story to tell, but it's an important one, especially for Denise's family and for the community. This case has been on our radar for years, and I'll be honest, it's a case that weighs heavily on us. There's a unique sense of responsibility when you know someone's life has been taken in such a senseless way, and there's a family out there waiting for answers. Anchor, tell us about the investigation and how you were finally able to identify Tyrone Hughey as a suspect after all these years. Police spokesperson. It wasn't easy. Like many cold cases, this one had little to go on at the start. When Denise's body was found, there were no immediate witnesses and no obvious suspect. For years, the case was put on the back burner while we worked other cases, but it was always there, in the back of our minds. We'd revisit it periodically, hoping for a breakthrough. Then, last year, new forensic technology became available that allowed us to re-examine old evidence, including DNA samples. That, combined with some fresh leads we'd received over the years, allowed us to make the connection between Hughey and the crime. Anchor. What kind of new evidence surfaced that led to the breakthrough? Police spokesperson. We found that Hughey's DNA matched samples that had been left at the scene. Additionally, through interviews and further investigation, we were able to piece together his whereabouts at the time of the crime. It all came together, and we presented the evidence to a grand jury, which led to his indictment. Family member interview. Anchor. We now turn to Denise Horsey's family member, who has graciously agreed to speak with us today. Thank you for joining us during this difficult time. We can't imagine what this journey must have been like for your family. How does it feel to finally get this news? Family member. It's hard to put into words. For years, we didn't know who was responsible for Denise's death. We had to live with that pain, just this empty space in our lives. There were moments when we thought we'd never have answers, but we never gave up hope. The police did everything they could, and this arrest is a long-awaited step towards justice. We are grateful, but there's still a lot of hurt. No arrest can bring Denise back, but it gives us peace of mind knowing someone has finally been held accountable. Anchor. You've been waiting for this day for such a long time. What was it like living through the uncertainty of not knowing who did this to Denise? Family member. It's a constant ache. Every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering, it's all clouded by this empty space. Not knowing who did it, not knowing why it happened, made every day harder. And the waiting was the worst part. You have all these memories of someone you love, but you can't get closure because there's no answer. It makes it feel like they're not really gone. like there's still a piece of them that's missing. Analysis of the case. Law enforcement's role. Anchor. Law enforcement's role in solving cold cases like this is crucial. Detective. Can you explain why it's so difficult to solve these cases and what makes this case different? Police spokesperson. Cold cases are incredibly challenging because you have limited resources, especially as time goes on. Evidence degrades, memories fade, and witnesses move on with their lives. But this case in particular stands out because of the police department's commitment to never giving up. We didn't just put it on a shelf and forget about it. We constantly re-examined the evidence, revisited old leads, and stayed in touch with the community. The community's help was crucial. We couldn't have solved this case without them. It's also worth noting that advancements in forensic science played a huge role. DNA technology has improved dramatically over the years, and it helped us connect the dots when everything else seemed to have dried up. Anchor. What would you say to other families who are still waiting for justice in cold cases like this? Police spokesperson, never lose hope. It's easy to get discouraged, but you must keep pushing forward. Every new advancement in technology, every new piece of information, could be the thing that cracks open the case. We understand the pain that families are going through. We are committed to finding justice for every victim, no matter how long it takes. We owe it to the victims, and we owe it to their families. Family members' reflection on justice. Anchor. What message do you have for other victims' families who are still waiting for justice? Family member. My message to them is simple. Don't stop fighting for your loved ones. Keep pushing, keep calling the police, keep telling the story. No matter how long it takes, your loved one deserves justice. I'm proof that it's possible, and I'm grateful for the day we finally got that phone call. Cut 2. Newsroom. Anchor. Anchor. The arrest of Tyrone Hughey is a step toward justice in the murder of Denise Horsey, but it's also a reminder of the tireless work done by law enforcement and the families who never give up hope. For Denise's family, while nothing will bring her back, they now have a sense of closure that eluded them for so many years. If you have any information related to this case or any other cold case, please contact your local law enforcement. Thank you for joining us. The year 2006 marked the beginning of a cold case that would shake Salisbury, Maryland, to its core. On April 8th, a spring evening that should have been filled with the usual promise of new beginnings turned into one of the most tragic events in the town's history. Denise Horsey, a 40-year-old woman, was discovered in a dark alley, her body lying lifeless after suffering multiple stab wounds. The scene was gruesome and shocking to everyone who learned of it, especially the residents of Salisbury, a small town where violence like this was not typical. At first, the investigation seemed hopeful. Officers quickly arrived on the scene, gathering evidence and speaking to witnesses in the area. But as hours turned to days, and days turned into weeks, the leads seemed to dry up. The police had no clear suspects, and there were no immediate witnesses who could provide any answers. As time passed, the case was pushed to the back burner, becoming yet another unsolved mystery, one of many that had no closure. Despite the lack of solid leads, law enforcement continued to work behind the scenes, reviewing evidence when they could, re-interviewing those who had known Denise, and using every tool available to them to try and crack the case. However, no matter how hard they worked, they couldn't find the break they needed. The case grew colder with each passing year, but the community and those who loved Denise never stopped hoping for answers. Anchor. For years, it seemed as though the case would never see the light of day. Can you speak to what kept this case open despite the lack of leads? Police spokesperson. The short answer is that we couldn't let it go. It's one thing for a case to go cold when there are no new leads, but another when there's a person behind it. Someone took Denise's life in such a violent manner, and we couldn't turn our backs on that. We owed it to her family, and to the community to keep trying. We knew that somewhere, someone had information that could change everything. Forensic advances and the role of technology. The real turning point in the investigation came not from a tip, but from advances in forensic technology. While DNA evidence had been collected in 2006, its analysis was far more limited than it would be years later. By 2025, however, DNA analysis had come a long way. Law enforcement agencies had access to advanced genetic sequencing tools. Forensic teams revisited more detailed information from biological DNA samples which had initially been tested but had failed to yield any significant results. This time, they were able to extract more usable DNA from the crime scene, and with the help of national databases, they discovered a match to Tyrone Leroy Hughey, a man with a criminal record. The breakthrough came at a time when Salisbury police were revisiting cold cases to see if technological advancements could shed light on long unsolved mysteries. This was the first major lead in years and marked the beginning of the end for the cold case. Anchor. Can you elaborate on how these advancements in forensic technology were pivotal in finally solving the case? Police spokesperson. Advancements in DNA analysis played a huge role. Back in 2006, the techniques we had were limited. But in the years that followed, we saw major improvements in our ability to extract and analyze DNA. One of the most significant advancements was the ability to get usable DNA from much smaller or degraded samples. This made a huge difference for us. When we retested the evidence, we were able to pull more from the samples we had and match them to Hughey, which allowed us to make the connection that had eluded us all those years. The community's response. When the news broke that an arrest had been made in connection with the 2006 stabbing death of Denise Horsey, the entire Salisbury community breathed a collective sigh of relief. Over the years, the case had haunted the town, and many residents had become invested in seeing it solved. People remembered Denise as a kind-hearted woman who was always ready to help others, and the thought that someone had taken her life so violently left a dark mark on the town. When word spread about the arrest, there was a sense of vindication, not just for Denise's family, but for everyone who had kept hope alive. Community leaders, law enforcement officials, and local citizens who had supported the investigation were finally able to share in the triumph of seeing justice served. Anchor. We heard from the police about how important the community's role was in solving this case. Can you tell us more about how the residents of Salisbury played a part? Police spokesperson. The role of the community cannot be overstated. Over the years, we received countless tips, some more helpful than others, but all of them were important. People in Salisbury knew something wasn't right, and they wanted to help. They kept the conversation going, and when we needed support, whether it was from community leaders, local businesses, or just everyday citizens, we always felt that we had the town's backing. That kind of support makes a huge difference when you're working on a case like this. Psychological impact on the family. While the case was officially closed with Hughey's arrest, the emotional toll on Denise's family had been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Her relatives lived with the constant pain of not knowing who had taken her life. The lack of closure affected them in ways that words couldn't fully capture. Her children grew up without their mother. Her siblings carried the weight of their grief quietly, and her parents, though supportive of each other, could not escape the void left by Denise's untimely death. As the years passed, the family struggled to hold on to hope, yet they never gave up. They continued to keep Denise's memory alive, and each year they held vigils, shared stories, and fought to keep her name in the public eye, all while dealing with the raw, unresolved emotions. Anchor. How did the psychological burden of not knowing what happened to Denise affect the family over the years? Family member. It was exhausting. The emotional toll was immeasurable. Some days, it felt like we were stuck in time, unable to move forward because we didn't have the answers. Holidays were particularly hard. We'd gather as a family, and there would always be an empty seat. We couldn't fully celebrate because the weight of it all was always there. But through it all, we held on to the belief that someday someone would be held accountable. And now we have that answer. It's a bittersweet relief. The legal process moving forward with the arrest of Tyrone Hughey, the legal process is now in motion. Hughey faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and assault. His trial will be closely watched, not just by the community but by those who have followed the case from its inception. Legal experts are already speculating about how the defense will approach the case, but for the family, the focus is on getting justice. Anchor. What can we expect next in the legal process? What are the next steps for Tyrone Hughey? Police spokesperson. The next step will be the arraignment, where Hughey will be formally charged in front of a judge. After that, the legal proceedings will follow a typical process: discovery, pretrial motions, and eventually the trial itself. We're committed to seeing this case through to the end. The family deserves closure, and the community deserves justice. Conclusion: a case of perseverance. The case of Denise Horsey is a testament to the power of perseverance. From the moment her life was tragically cut short, there were those, both in law enforcement and the community, who refused to let her story be forgotten. Through technological advancements, a tireless community effort, and the unwavering determination of Denise's family, justice has finally been served. As the legal process continues, there is one thing that remains clear: justice may be delayed, but it is never truly denied. The case of Denise Horsey serves as a reminder to all that no matter how much time passes, the pursuit of truth and justice will always persist. Anchor. Thank you to everyone who made this report possible. We hope tonight's story serves as a reminder of the power of hope, determination, and community. We will continue to follow the case as it progresses and keep you updated on new developments.